You know that feeling when you're watching a match and everything seems like it's going according to plan? The crowd's roaring, the action's electric, and you think you know exactly how the story's going to end. And then bam, someone flips the script so violently that your jaw hits the floor and stays there. That's exactly what happened when Drew McIntyre decided that Cody Rhodes' night at Elimination Chamber wasn't just going to be challenging, it was going to be an absolute nightmare. Because when the Scottish Warrior gets involved, nobody's safe, and what we witnessed wasn't just an attack. It was a statement. It was personal. And it changed everything. Before we dive into the chaos that unfolded, let me paint you the picture of where we were. Elimination Chamber. One of the most brutal, unforgiving structures in all of professional wrestling. Steel pods. Chain link walls. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. And at the center of it all, a triple threat match that had the entire WWE Universe buzzing with anticipation. Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, stepping into that chamber with two opponents who wanted nothing more than to tear him apart and take what he's worked so hard to build. The stakes? Astronomical. The pressure? Crushing. The expectation? That Cody would rise above it all like he always does. But here's where things get interesting. Drew McIntyre, 6'5", 265 pounds of pure Scottish fury, had other plans. And when Drew McIntyre has plans, you better believe they involve violence, vengeance, and making sure everyone remembers his name. Now, to understand why this attack sent shockwaves through the wrestling world, we need to understand the history. We need to understand the simmering tension that had been building between these two men like a powder keg waiting for someone to light the match. Drew and Cody. Two men who've clawed their way back to the top of WWE after being told they weren't good enough. Two men who've carried the weight of expectation on their shoulders and refused to crumble. Two men who, on the surface, should respect each other's journeys. But respect in professional wrestling is a funny thing, isn't it? Because sometimes, respect turns into resentment. Sometimes, watching someone else achieve what you've been fighting for creates something darker. Something hungrier. Something dangerous. In the weeks leading up to Elimination Chamber, Drew had been vocal. Not in that polished, corporate way where everything's carefully scripted. No, Drew was raw. He was honest. He was letting everyone know that he felt overlooked, underappreciated, and tired of watching other people get opportunities that should have been his. And every time Cody stepped into that spotlight, every time the crowd chanted his name, every time commentary praised the American Nightmare's resilience, you could see it eating away at Drew. The frustration. The anger. The feeling that he'd done everything right but somehow kept ending up two steps behind. So when Elimination Chamber rolled around and Cody was announced for this triple threat match, a match that could potentially elevate him even further, cement his status even more, add another accolade to his already impressive resume, Drew saw it. He saw his moment. Not to compete. Not to shake hands and wish Cody luck. But to take what he felt was rightfully his by force. The match itself was everything you'd expect. Hard-hitting. High stakes. The kind of action that has you on the edge of your seat from the opening bell to the final pinfall. Cody was in there showing exactly why he's one of the most complete wrestlers in the world today. Selling like his life depended on it. Firing back with that combination of technical skill and fighting heart that's become his signature. The crowd was electric, completely invested in every near fall, every reversal, every desperate kickout. This wasn't just a match. This was a war of attrition, and everyone inside the chamber knew that one mistake could cost them everything. But then, just when it seemed like we were building toward that climactic moment, that finish that would send everyone home talking about what an incredible match they just witnessed, the lights flickered. And you know what happens in wrestling when the lights flicker? Nothing good. The crowd's energy shifted in an instant. That excited roar turned into confused murmurs. What's happening? Who's coming out? Is this part of the match? And then we heard it. The sound that makes every WWE fan's hair stand up. That thunderous entrance music. Drew McIntyre's music. And the confusion turned into pure electricity because everyone in that arena knew what was about to happen. They could feel it. The anticipation was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Cody was in the ring, exhausted, battered, completely focused on the match at hand. He had no idea what storm was about to crash down on him. Drew didn't waste time with theatrics. He didn't slowly walk to the ring like he was savoring the moment. No, this was a man on a mission. He stormed down that ramp with purpose, with fury etched across his face, and the moment he slid under those ropes, you could see the exact instant Cody realized what was happening. That split second of recognition. That flash of understanding that he wasn't just dealing with his scheduled opponents anymore. He was dealing with a man who'd been waiting for this moment, planning for it, and was about to unleash months of pent-up frustration. The Claymore kick. God, the Claymore kick. If you've never seen Drew McIntyre deliver one in person, you're missing out on one of the most devastating moves in professional wrestling. The setup, the explosion, the impact, it's like watching a freight train collide with a brick wall. And when Drew loaded up and launched himself at Cody, you could hear the collective gasp from the crowd. That sickening thud of boot meeting jaw. The way Cody's body crumpled and folded like he'd been hit by a truck. It wasn't just a kick. It was an exclamation point on everything Drew had been feeling, everything he'd been saying, everything he'd been promising would happen. But here's what made this attack so much more than just another run-in. Drew didn't stop there. He could have. He could have delivered the Claymore, stood over Cody, and let that image speak for itself. But that's not what this was about. This wasn't about sending a message. This was about making Cody feel every ounce of what Drew had been feeling. The steel steps became weapons. The ringside area became a battlefield. Every slam, every strike, every moment of calculated brutality was Drew releasing everything he'd kept bottled up. The commentary team was losing their minds. You could hear the genuine shock in their voices. This wasn't scripted shock. This wasn't manufactured outrage. This was real, visceral reaction to watching one of WWE's top stars getting absolutely dismantled. Michael Cole's voice cracking as he screamed about the carnage. Corey Graves trying to make sense of Drew's motivations while simultaneously being in awe of the destruction. The other competitors in the match, frozen, unsure whether to continue or stop and watch this unfold. Because sometimes, even in the choreographed world of professional wrestling, you witness moments that feel too real, too personal, too intense to be anything but genuine. And the crowd. Oh man, the crowd reaction was split right down the middle in the most beautiful way. Half of them were booing Drew, outraged that he'd interfere, that he'd ruin this match, that he'd attack Cody when he was already exhausted and vulnerable. But the other half, they were cheering. They were eating it up. Because Drew had tapped into something that resonates with wrestling fans. The underdog turned villain. The overlooked competitor taking what he feels he deserves. The man who's tired of playing by the rules and watching others succeed while he grinds away in the background. Security flooded the ringside area like ants to sugar. Referees, officials, backstage personnel, everyone trying to pull Drew away from Cody. But have you ever tried to stop a freight train once it's built up momentum? That's what this was like. Drew was tossing security guards like they were children. Referees were getting in his face and getting shoved aside. He was possessed, consumed by this need to make his point in the most violent, unmistakable way possible. When they finally managed to separate them, when they finally got Drew heading back up the ramp, the camera caught his face. And that's when you knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The intensity in his eyes. The set of his jaw. The way he was pointing back at Cody, still shouting even as he was being pulled away. This wasn't the culmination of their story. This was the beginning. This was Drew declaring war, and he was making it crystal clear that he didn't care about the consequences, didn't care about the rules, didn't care about anything except proving he's the top guy in WWE. Back in the ring, Cody was a mess. And I don't say that to diminish him. I say it because it was real. His face told the story of someone who'd been through hell in the triple threat match and then got ambushed when he had nothing left in the tank. Medical staff was checking on him. The match had obviously been thrown into complete chaos. The other competitors were standing there, unsure of what happens next. Do they pin him? Do they wait? Do they check on him? It was this strange limbo where the show must go on, but nobody quite knew how. The aftermath in the arena was something else. You could feel the energy, that post-chaos buzz where everyone's trying to process what they just saw. Fans were on their phones immediately, sharing clips, debating on social media, arguing about whether Drew was justified or whether he'd crossed a line. And that's the beautiful thing about moments like this: they create conversation. They create investment. They make you care about what happens next because you need to know how this story continues. Think about what this means for both men going forward. For Cody, this isn't just about recovering from an attack. This is about how he responds. Does he take the high road? Does he demand a match with Drew? Does he go full-on revenge mode? The American Nightmare has always positioned himself as the babyface, the hero of his story, but there's only so much a man can take before he snaps. And if Drew keeps poking the bear, we might see a side of Cody that we haven't seen before. And for Drew? This cements him as a legitimate threat to everyone at the top of WWE, not just a competitor, not just someone who's good in the ring, but a volatile, dangerous presence who's willing to do whatever it takes. The Scottish Warrior has always had that edge, but this attack took it to another level. He's not asking for opportunities anymore. He's taking them. He's not waiting for his moment. He's creating it through sheer force and willpower. The wrestling world exploded after this. Social media was on fire. Wrestling journalists were analyzing every second. Fans were creating their dream booking scenarios for the inevitable showdown between these two. Some people were calling Drew a coward for attacking Cody after the match. Others were praising him for being smart and strategic. And both perspectives have merit, which is what makes this so compelling. From a storytelling standpoint, this is exactly what WWE needs more of. Real emotion, real stakes, real consequences. Too often, we see feuds that feel manufactured or forced. But when Drew attacked Cody, you believed it. You believed that Drew was genuinely frustrated and fed up. You believed that Cody didn't see it coming. You believed that this rivalry had teeth, and that when these two finally meet one-on-one, it's going to be something special. The triple threat match itself almost became secondary to the attack, which is both unfortunate and brilliant. Unfortunate because the competitors put on a great performance that deserved to be the story, but brilliant because WWE created a moment that transcended the match itself. They created something that people will remember, talk about, and reference for years to come. That's the mark of truly effective storytelling in professional wrestling. In the weeks following this incident, the tension only escalated. Drew cut promos that were filled with such raw intensity that you couldn't help but hang on every word. Cody's responses were measured, but you could see the fire behind his eyes. The WWE Universe was divided, passionate, and completely invested in seeing where this goes. Championship implications? Absolutely. Personal pride? Without question. The chance to prove who the real top guy in WWE is? That's what it's all about. What Drew McIntyre did at Elimination Chamber wasn't just an attack. It was a declaration. A line in the sand. A promise of violence to come. He looked at Cody Rhodes, one of the most beloved, respected competitors in the company, and decided that respect doesn't matter when you feel like you've been disrespected by the system, by the fans, by the booking, by fate itself. And in professional wrestling, those are the rivalries that matter. Those are the stories that create legends. So where do we go from here? That's the question everyone's asking. Will Cody get his revenge? Will Drew continue his path of destruction? Will these two tear each other apart in a match that defines both their careers? The beauty is that we don't know, but we absolutely need to find out. That's the magic of professional wrestling when it's done right. It grabs you, pulls you in, and doesn't let go until the story reaches its conclusion. If you enjoyed this breakdown of one of the most shocking moments in recent WWE history, do me a favor and smash that like button. Drop a comment and let me know your thoughts. Are you Team Drew or Team Cody? Do you think the attack was justified, or did Drew cross the line? And if you want to keep up with all the latest wrestling news, analysis, and breakdowns right here on Wrestling Impact, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because trust me, with the way WWE's been going lately, you won't want to miss a single moment. The Scottish Warrior has thrown down the gauntlet, and the